we talk about mitigation or climate action regarding reducing emissions, we we want you to think about this in a more broad way. So even if we don't actually talk about climate action in particular, there are many actions the cities can do to reduce emissions that are focused even in economic development or social well-being or health. And some of them we can think of it, for instance, sustainable transportation. So making people taking more active transportation can reduce emissions, but also has co-benefits on health and pollutants, on local pollutants. When we talk about waste reduction, this means also obviously reducing the amount of waste we generate, but also treat them in a way that we make most out of the nutrients that this waste is bringing. So, for instance, composting can help us re-nurturing the soil we have and making communities obviously more healthy. Another type of climate action may look like adopting renewable energy, like solar rooftops in our homes or community solar rooftop projects. And this is, it helps us obviously to reduce GHG emissions, but it also can contribute to reduce energy bill for residents. And here I want you to just scan this code, and we have like a open question for you to answer. Specifically on this topic about climate mitigation, GHG emissions.
Could you put that link in the text, please, or in the chat?
Yeah, no problem. Okay, thanks, Gabi. I'm going to give you some minutes to answer this question. So the question is, what are the most pressing needs in the community regarding climate action or climate mitigation of greenhouse gas emissions? So safe and healthy homes, air quality, water quality, clean water and environment. So extremes like flooding, adopting renewable energy, energy efficiency in homes. Safe housing weather, community health disparities and environmental racism and redlining. Again, safe homes, air and water quality, household affordability, addressing vulnerable infrastructure and corporate responsibility. So we see there is some doubling or duplicating answers here. We can see household safe homes and affordability and air quality and water quality. It's something that is repeating here. Energy efficiency in homes could be related to safe and healthy homes too. Okay, so this is very well related to actually some of climate actions that we had been also thinking for the region. But before that, I want you to understand what are the scopes of the project. So when we talk about climate action, we first need to point towards where are the main sources of emissions or where these emissions are coming from and tackle those emissions to actually reach the targets. So when we talk about emissions, we can differentiate two different scopes. So the first one is direct emissions. These are specifically emissions from sources that the community directly owns or controls. And this is like cars and buildings and are easier to change. And then we also have indirect or energy-related emissions, and this is specifically emissions coming from the grid or from the electricity we use at home, because the Ohio grid is integrated. We use electricity that can come or be generated from different type of sources. A part could be solar, a part could be coal, a part of them could be nuclear. In terms of Miami Valley region in particular, the main sources of emissions are, well, the first one is transportation. So it's expected that part of the emissions for transportation in the future may be reduced only because of the adoption of electric vehicles, but currently is one of the sectors that also contributes the most. And this is specifically due to the use of gasoline for our vehicles. And when we try to tackle these emissions, we can think of different strategies, and some of them are, for instance, increasing transit infrastructure, transit frequency, promoting active modes of transportation. This is micromobility, cycling, walking. But also can be electrification of vehicles. So when the idea here is we try to think equity in terms of the reducing these emissions and also of these actions. So when we think about equity in terms of transit, our active modes, what are the pressing needs of these communities to actually adopt this kind of transportation modes, or how can we ensure that these communities are also benefiting from the expansion of this infrastructure? In terms of vehicle electrification, how can we make sure these communities also have the access to buy an electric car or get an electric bus to their places, etc. The second the higher emitting sector is the residential sector, where also the commercial, but in general the building sectors. When we are talking about low income, we will be focusing on the residential emissions specifically, and this comes from the use of electricity from the grid, and also from the use of natural gas for space heating and cooling. So how can we make sure of these emissions reducing? First of all, we have to think of retrofitting our homes, everybody's homes, everybody's buildings, and this is enhancing window insulation, wall insulation, and making the whole home more energy efficiency, or you can use less energy to make the home function properly. But then when we think about, okay, we made everything more efficient, what is the next step? So adopting more efficient systems of space heating and cooling, and this can be translated in more efficient air conditioning or even heat pumps. And finally, when we have everything sorted out in terms of energy efficiency and electrification, then we can also plan for solar rooftop or renewable energy community solar projects or any other renewable source. In this case, I want you to just try to think about what are the pressing needs of communities for retrofitting in general, and in the Miami Valley region. Building insulation is very poor, and we know it has a capital cost, so how can we make sure everybody has the opportunity to retrofit their homes, to access a heat pump? And obviously retrofitting and heat pumps or electrification may increase the cost of electricity, which right now natural gas is a bit less costly than electricity. So how can we make sure we do this transition in an equitable way? Right now, the energy expenditures, including transportation per household in average, could be up to more than $4,700, which is very close to more than 10% of annual income of any household, and for low income households, this percentage increases enormously. So think about that, and when we try to think about how can we implement these actions for communities itself, we can think about solar rooftops in social housing units, for instance. How can we make sure that how the social housing units are also included in this? Do we need a program, incentives, rebates? Also can be looked like an expansion of electric alternatives in underserved areas specifically, and understanding how these communities move. Bike sharing programs or rebate programs for micromobility. With micromobility, I mean e-bikes or scooters. And would be necessary a retrofitting program specifically targeting low-income communities or communities that are facing energy poverty.